breaking moments ago, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ordering DHS to terminate Harvard University's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification.
This is massive, and I don't think anyone saw this coming. Harvard has officially been ordered by the Department of Homeland Security no more foreign student enrollments, and for the foreign students who are in your university currently, they have to go somewhere else to a different university or they could be kicked out of the United States.
And fear over this because they're actually struggling to interpret some parts of these, at least the students are. So it sounds like they have basically lost their ability to enroll international students. And so that's going to impact future students. But we're also hearing that Kristi Noem, the secretary of DHS, announced that current international students there must transfer or lose their status.
Transfer to another American university.
Another university that would be in good standing with this program. So what that means a couple weeks out from graduation day is that if those students don't transfer, they might lose their legal status here in the U.S. And we know what this administration has been doing to students.
What is the timeline?
Now, here's the direct order from Kristi Noem. And by the way, spoiler alert, of course, a judge in California, not even from the state of Harvard, has already blocked this. This administration is holding Harvard accountable for fostering violence, anti-Semitism, and coordinating with Chinese Communist Party on its campus. It is a privilege, not a right, for universities to enroll foreign students and benefit from their higher tuition payments to help pad their multi-billion-dollar endowments. Harvard had plenty of opportunity to do the right thing. It refused. They have lost their student and exchange visitor program certification as a result of their failure to adhere to the law. Let this serve as a warning to all universities and academic institutions across the country.
I expect this one to wind up in court, but that's the action that the DHS secretary is taking at this moment.
Now, we are very used to this. A federal judge has, of course, blocked this order, but here's the hilarious part. It doesn't even matter where you're from anymore or where the judge is located. Harvard is located in Massachusetts. This judge is located in California, but does it matter anymore? Absolutely not. A judge in California blocked the Trump administration Thursday from terminating the legal status of international students nationwide, while a court case challenging previous terminations is pending. The order by U.S. District Judge Jeffrey S. White in Oakland bars the government from arresting, incarcerating, or moving students elsewhere based on their legal status until the case is resolved. Students could still be arrested for other reasons, and their legal status can still be revoked if they are convicted of a violent crime carrying a prison term of more than 1 year. So again, just want to point out, everyone saw this coming, that a judge was going to block this.
You know, I want to make clear, too, in case anyone's wondering, well, why is it important to have international students on college campuses? Well, not only do they make up about 27% of the student body life there and at many universities in the U.S., international students pay full price. So they make it possible for American students from disadvantaged backgrounds to have an opportunity to come to schools like Harvard. So what's actually going to happen here is a lot of those international students are going to have options to go elsewhere. It is going to be underprivileged, marginalized Americans of all backgrounds who apply to schools like Harvard.
Now, I am well aware the mass majority of Americans could care less about the tuition status of Harvard or anything about this story. However, the Trump administration is admitting that Harvard, yes, they are being targeted. Let's use them as an example, as they say. However, I also want to point out, when you actually look at the data into Harvard, it is a predominantly left-leaning institute as far as the faculty. So make no mistake, this is the Trump administration going after an institution which is seen as a Democrat institution overall.
This decision that Harvard can no longer enroll foreign students and existing foreign students have to transfer or lose their legal status. What's your reaction to this?
I think it's awful and it's outrageous. It's another pattern of the Trump administration taking authoritarian actions. In the United States, the president does not have the power to punish people, target people for punishment because he doesn't like their politics. And he's targeting Harvard because he thinks he politically disagrees with them. It's a political vendetta. And he's doing this on the back of students who were admitted to Harvard from around the world for their merit, for things that they accomplished in life. And now he's trying to punish them, to hold them hostage, essentially to try to win what he considers to be this political fight with Harvard. That's what authoritarians do. It's not done by the rule of law.
Now, one thing I do want to point out, I do find it ironic that Harvard representation is acting like this is not the first time they've had to work with Homeland Security to at least hand over information of students who may have committed crimes. Harvard hands over foreign student info to feds amid threat from Trump admin. And you scroll down through here, Harvard University has provided the Department of Homeland Security information required by law about foreign students' illegal activity and records, according to an email sent to Harvard community members on Wednesday. So again, I do want to point out, Harvard is like acting as if this has never been a threat before, or as if there's no communication between Homeland Security. So the real question is, who is making this political? Harvard or the Trump administration? And of course, the Trump administration has always had Harvard on their radar, to include other Ivy League schools, especially when it comes to the protesting and types of protesting, and these protests were shutting down the entire campuses. Now, let's get to what Kristi Noem has to say about the situation on Fox News.
They will not be allowed to have foreign students because we have gone back to them multiple times, asked them to disclose this information, which other universities have and need to do in order to participate in the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, and Harvard simply has not done it. Harvard has a history of allowing not just protests, but violent protests where students were assaulted, they were discriminated against, they were verbally abused, and they've even facilitated a training for a paramilitary group affiliated with the CCP.
So you're telling me I can go to Harvard and learn about the theory of relativity, and I can join a Chinese military, paramilitary group? Sorry, I can't even do this bit. I had a funny thing to say in my head. You can pause the screen here, but let's continue. I can't even believe what I'm hearing right now.
Pro-Hamas activities that they have allowed to have happen on their campus. They've also allowed participation with Communist China, who considers the United States one of their greatest enemies. This is something we're not going to continue to allow to have happen. This is something I'm responsible for, is to provide this type of oversight, and we're going to ensure that every university protects every single one of their students on their campuses, whether they're from the United States or another country. They need to be safe. They don't deserve to have this kind of anti-Semitic or any other kind of discrimination that may face them based on their race going forward.
Now, as far as the complaint with the organization tied to the CCP, we write today to request detailed information about Harvard's activities detailed below that create risk to U.S. national security and further the Chinese Communist Party, CCP's genocide, and Xinjiang specifically. Harvard repeatedly hosted and trained members of a CCP paramilitary organization, the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, XPCC. I have no idea what this is. XPCC is a primary implementer of the CCP's genocide against the Uyghurs. Harvard provided services to XPCC members multiple times after the Department of the Treasury placed the XPCC on the Specially Designated Nationals and Blocked Persons SDN list in 2020, included as recently as 2024. So why is Harvard complaining right now? This is what Democrats always tend to do. They will complain and act like people are not going to do research like me. I've had no idea about any of this, and now we're looking into it, and now the whole world is going to find out, hold on, what the heck is going on at Harvard? I mean, this is some pretty intense stuff here, and absolutely insane, and by the way, illegal.
The sense of entitlement here is disgusting. First of all, absolutely clear. The U.S. Supreme Court has already held that a charitable organization, including specifically a university, can lose its tax-exempt status if they are violating fundamental policy. That was Bob Jones University versus the U.S. in 1983. They lost their tax-exempt status because their racist, discriminatory policies were contrary to a compelling governmental interest and to public policy. Harvard has said they will not comply with what the federal government says they need to as it relates to enforcing non-discrimination policies. Of course, they can lose their federal exempt tax status. I've read through the letter that the task force sent to Harvard, and all they're asking is to come up with solutions to its own problems. What's Harvard's plan to fix it? It's not a huge ask. The reality here is that elite universities are undermining confidence in the entire sector. Jewish being harassed and assaulted, and elite university administrators have done nothing to stop it, including at Harvard. By the way, in the fair admissions case, Harvard came out with a statement a day later saying they were going to try to find ways around it so as not to comply with it. These universities are entitled, and they will not stop this behavior on their own accord. The only thing they seem to respond to is financial incentive. That seems to be the only lever that we can pull to stop the racist and anti-Semitic conduct on their campuses. No,
Mark, I just want to be Mark. This is John Avlon. I just want to be real clear. You're comparing Harvard University to Bob Jones University, which lost its tax-exempt status because it forbid interracial dating. I just want to be clear. That's your official position, right? That's your argument?
That's right.
Super. That's going to go down real well. Sounds really equivalent. Why would you cut scientific funding? Why would you cut medical funding?
Harvard has $53 billion in its endowment. Are they gaining that many students? Dip into your endowment or stop discriminating. Stop discriminating against Jews and nobody has to suffer. Or if you want to keep discriminating, you have plenty of money that you raised over the years. And anything that the U.S. cuts off, I'm sure Qatar will fill right in.
Now, when you look at the context of today, Harvard has been accused of staging or allowing for these anti-Semitic and, anti-Jewish protests in the Free Palestine movement. Now, I'm just trying to give you guys the full context. Understand, in Washington, D.C., when you have Israeli staffers who were taken out at the Jewish Museum, it makes total sense that the Trump administration has said enough is enough. Now, I'm not saying that the anti-Jewish or the anti-Semitic aspect is the only reason why Harvard has lost their tax exemption as far as the foreign students or the ability to have foreign students. But I do want to say a lot of this does come into play because when you do your research on Harvard versus the Trump administration, a lot of it does have to do with the pro-Palestinian protest and this notion of Harvard being anti-Jewish, etc.
Are we going to talk about this? I mean, and I, we've all been talking about it during the break. Let's talk about it.
Because Harvard is now, so it comes down to what exactly are they asking Harvard to do? They're asking Harvard to eliminate their DEI programs, right? They're asking them to do what else? I mean, because this is where the whole anti-Semitism issue becomes the main focus. And if they're giving them government funds and saying...
Look, to me, the issue has always been about, and it's a nuanced view, violence and genuine disruption of classes, to me, is a problem, and that should be prevented.
Right.
I'm a Jew. I hate the anti-Semitism piece of this more than anything, more than anybody. Do I think that people can scream from the rooftops if they want? I hate to say that, but I think that they can. And in the same way that we think that it was not right for the Biden administration to go after the tech companies, but around whether you think it was laptops or COVID or this or that. No.
The left misses those days of controlling Facebook and controlling Twitter. And at the time, they didn't say don't do it.
What I'm saying is, to the extent that if we want to be, if we're trying to have a consistent view about free speech.
But it wasn't consistent back then.
So why are we then saying it shouldn't be consistent now? My only point is, if we genuinely believe in free speech, if we're going to advocate for Elon Musk's
we're calling whataboutism
and everything else
instead of calling it for what it is, which is
you are doing this is the ultimate whataboutism.
Why didn't the left care that we couldn't read about the lab origin of Wuhan or the Biden laptop?
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying if we believe that the government...
But you can't go back in time and decide to do it now.
Alright, so I think you guys get it. I do want to make clear I am a big fan of academics. However, when it comes to Harvard, Harvard is an interesting case. It is like the institute of institutes in the United States. However, let's be honest, pretty much none of us would ever expect to even make it to Harvard, but we know it's supposed to be like that really elite institute. However, what the Trump administration is doing is really unveiling the curtains. It's an elite institute, it's very hard to get in here, but did you know you can also go to these paramilitary Chinese Chinese groups, and that is the problem the Trump administration has. Are you doing academics there, or is there something else going on behind the scenes? Now, I don't know, or I really don't think this order could even really hold up. As far as them going to court, I do think eventually this will all be dropped. And I actually do think the Trump administration is just fully trying to expose what's going on in Harvard. Again, the Trump administration sees Harvard as an anti-Semitic institution that's mostly Democrat. And now when you really do your research into Harvard, it does make you question what the heck has been going on over there. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys feel about all of this. God bless, and we'll see you all later.